Hello and welcome to this overview of Moto Road Raider, an application produced for the Spring+Summer 2021 Portland State Computer Science Capstone program by the programmers you see below. Moto Road Raider is a web application that allows motorcyclists to log and rate motorcycle routes and find other routes that suit their individual preferences. Here's what it looks like. So I just got back from a route that I'd like to record, so I'm going to go ahead and start my pin where I started over in Barnes Heights. I'm going to take that all the way down Skyline, and then I take a left on Patton, and then do a little loop back to get onto Skyline and head back to where I came from. So this is my route, so I'm ready to continue and rate it. So I'm going to call this Skyline Loop. And we started in Barnes Heights. We ended in Southwest Hills. And I'm definitely going to call that a twister. There's lots of twists on Skyline. I think it was a pretty good one. I encountered a little bit of commuter traffic on the way, so I'm going to go ahead and give that a 3 in the traffic department. The scenery, though, was really nice up in the West Hills, and the surfaces were fine. So I'm going to give future riders a shout out to watch out for commuter traffic. And this was a ride I just took today, and there we have it. And so once I submit this route, I can find it in the route list. Maybe I only want to be looking at twisters. I can see all of those. There's my Skyline Loop. And I can also see it in map view. And you can see it starts up in Barnes Heights and ends down here in the Green Hills. And I can look at other routes that are close by as well. There's one on 26 that somebody's rated. There's some other downtown routes. I guess that one goes all the way up to the beach. But yeah, that's the basics of Moto Road Raider. Motorcyclists have one thing in common, a love for riding motorcycles. Aside from that, they are not a monolith. There are sport riders, nature riders, and even easy riders. There are other route rating apps, but none that try to address all of the diverse preferences that riders hold. This is where Moto Road Raider comes in. Moto Road Raider allows rider to rate routes not just on overall quality, but on several specific criteria. Riders can then select which of these criteria matter most so that when looking for new routes, they will find the routes that fit their preferences first. Now let's hear from the team about the features that make Moto Road Raider a unique and exciting new service.
Hey everyone, my name is Tim and I will be going over my portion of Moto Road Raider. Today we're going to be going over the user login and sign up functionality as well as the user preferences page. So for right now, all we're going to do is hit this login button at the top right. We're going to be taken to this login screen, and because we don't have an account, I'm going to hit sign up at the bottom. So from here, I'm going to enter in my name, my email, and my password. And just for the sake of error checking, I'm going to enter in 2 different passwords just to make sure that it works. Hit sign up, and we can see that the error checking does work and the passwords don't match, which is expected. So now we're going to enter in matching passwords. Hit sign up, and it sees that we've been taken to the corresponding account. So from right over here, we're just going to log out, make sure we can log back in, and that works. So now for the user preferences page, all we have to do is click on this user icon in the top right, and here we're taken to the user preferences. So we have 4 variables, road type, traffic, surface, and scenery, and they all start at their default values being 25%, all of them adding up to 100 no matter what. So let's say if road type is the most important to me as a rider, I'm going to set that a little bit higher up. And you can see that all these other variables scale down to add up to 100. With traffic, let's say I don't care about that all that much. We can scale that down. Surface is important to me, so I'm going to scale that up. And then scenery, I'll leave that somewhere in the middle. So you can see we have 36, 10, 32, and then 21. From here we hit submit. And just to make sure that last, we'll go to a different page, head back, and we can see that it does scale sometimes with the math, but the ratios all remain the same. So yeah, that is that part of my project, and I hope you all have a good one.
Hi, my name is Forrest. and I'm going to introduce to you the Route Creation tool. Users can use the Route Creation tool to add new routes to the map. This can be accomplished by dropping pins on each end of the route, and Google Maps will fill in the rest. To achieve a more accurate result, users can place up to 25 intermediate points on the map to allow for tighter control over what the final route will look like. Undo and clear buttons allow users to quickly resolve any mistakes. And each route will have its length updated in miles in real time as the user adds points to the map.
So once the coordinates on the map have been entered, you have the ability, once you click continue, to move to this screen and enter more details about the route that has been inputted. So for instance, you could make up a name for this route. I'll just call it Highway 84, and I'll say this is from the airport to the Dalles. And now you can select the route type. And so I'm going to say this one is a cruiser, but these are all different types of roads. And once you select it, you're presented with a slider to rate the quality of that route, and you're presented with some examples, just so you have something to correlate the quality of the route you've just ridden to a score. And I'm going to say this one's about a 4. And now I can do the same thing with traffic. And the traffic was pretty light, so I'm going to say a 3. And once again, you can do this for scenery. I'm going to rate the scenery a 5 because it goes through the gorge and it's pretty breathtaking. And then you can do the same thing for the surface of the road, and I'm going to rate that as a 3. And so I'm going to leave some notes about this. So this is a scenic route along the Columbia River, and I rode this route on Monday. And so once all this information has been entered, you can click Submit, and this will store it in the database, and it will present it in the list of routes.
My name is Kirani, and I will be going over the Routes List page. The Routes List page displays limited info about routes in a list format that a user can navigate through. The list is paginated to limit the number of routes that appear. The user can select the number of routes that they would like to see on each page and navigate through the pages as they please. The list is sorted by score by default, but it can be changed to be sorted by name, by length, or by the date, which is not shown here. This page is designed to be compact and easy to read, with a priority on the score value. The name and description have limits on the number of characters that are displayed. By mousing over the name or a description that is over the length limit, you can see the full text that is stored in the database. By clicking on a route in the list, anywhere on that route, it'll navigate you to the route view for that route, and you can see the full data of what is stored in the database. The route list can be filtered with a search, by score, by state, which we don't have any entries for at the moment, and by type.
Moto Road Raider also has a map view where you can check your area for nearby routes. On top of all that, Moto Road Raider is easy to use on both desktop and mobile interfaces, so riders have the ability to log routes on the go.
We also have a number of features planned for potential future updates. The first of these is the ability to find routes near a certain location, usually the user's current one. This will likely entail using the Google Maps API to create a bunch of mini routes between the selected point and start points of a bunch of routes nearby to determine distance. The second feature would be the inclusion of aggregate routes, which are basically 2 or more routes stuck together. This would likely use a modified version of the Routes Near Me feature described above, where the User location is the endpoint of a route. The final feature is the creation of unique URLs for each route. This would probably be the easiest of these features to create, since our database for these routes contains a column called ID, which is unique to each route, allowing each route to be mapped one-to-one with a unique URL.
Now that you've seen what Moto Road Raider is, let's talk about how it was made.
The Moto Road Raider application architecture is segmented into 3 different parts. The first part is the front-end application, which is built in React using TypeScript, and the code is hosted using Firebase hosting. And this front-end application makes requests to Google Maps to provide all of our mapping services as routes are entered and displayed. And it also makes requests to our backend for front-end server, which is a Node.js app running in Docker using Google Cloud Run. This application makes reads and writes to Cloud Firestore, which is the NoSQL database that we use to store routes and users.
To develop Moto Road Raider, we first underwent a period of investigation wherein we worked closely with our sponsor to identify the core features and compare possibilities for interface, layout, and design. Once we had an understanding of our product, we began a series of development cycles, averaging 2 weeks in length, where we implemented and refined features in order of importance. Each development cycle began with choosing features to implement and ended with a demonstration of those features to our sponsor so that we could receive frequent feedback. Our final month of development was spent integrating all of our features and performing quality assurance. Team members were not restricted to a given role, but we each took on certain responsibilities based on need, availability, and skill set. I was primarily in charge of project management tasks such as coordinating schedules and meeting agendas and contacting our sponsor. Aryeh was responsible for designing the architecture and did a tremendous job with keeping the team up to speed with modern full-stack development. Xander designed and maintained our backend databases for the duration of the project. Kirani, Forrest, Tim, and Aryeh all made significant contributions to the front-end interface. It's said that no perfect plan survives first encounter with the enemy, and we certainly experienced some things that we didn't expect. In our initial architecture, we used Cloud SQL to host our database. This was going fine until we realized that it drained through the remainder of one of our $300 Google Cloud Platform trial memberships and a $50 education credit in under a month. Realizing that the monthly cost for Cloud SQL would be nearly $250, we temporarily shut down the Cloud SQL and looked at alternatives that would be better suited to our sponsor. We looked at hosting the database on Compute Engine, which would have been about $50 a month, but even that would have been a pretty significant cost. Thankfully, Aryeh was familiar with Firestore, which would cost under $5 a month, and he was able to transfer the backend to that service in time to integrate the remaining features. Of course, there's always life going on outside the code, and sometimes that has to take priority. We began spring term with 7 members, but one member of our team had to leave before summer term for reasons beyond their control. The team's flexible structure and willingness to pick up responsibilities made it possible to weather this and other availability conflicts that arose during development. One thing we learned during this project was the importance of terminology. Early on, we were using terms like rating, score, and route loosely, which led to a bit of confusion. In our model, a rating turned out to be the 1 to 5 point rating that users give routes when they first log them, and a score is the aggregated sum of the ratings weighted by each user's preference. In another instance of terminology confusion, at one time I asked somebody to work on a route finder, and while I meant the list of routes in order of the user preference score, the receiver understood me as asking the individual route view. Writing a glossary in the project document and adding more details to feature criteria helped alleviate this issue. Another thing we learned was that integrating features together with a backend is no easy process. If we had started that process earlier, we would have been able to give a hands-on demo to our sponsor earlier on and could have been more reactive to feedback about UI layout. Now I'd like to turn it over to our sponsor, Ernie, for his feedback on our final product.
Well, let me talk about the positive first. I want to say that I think that your team approach to what we did was really organized, and I thought you guys did really a great job on setting out what your goals were and then finding a way to meet those in each of the sprints. I was really impressed by that. I also thought it was really great how you guys volunteered to help each other. I saw that a number of times when there was a problem to be solved or somebody was struggling with something. One of my critiques of how we went about the process of programming is that I think now that I look back on it, there could have been some more effort put into showing me what the process of operating the app was going to be. I think then I could have given you some useful feedback about how the thing is structured. Having said that, even though you guys we didn't really do that simulation, I have to say that you hit the mark just based on what I've seen of it so far.
Thank you so much for watching our presentation on Moto Road Raider. And a special thanks to our sponsor, Ernie Staley, who was very generous with his time and worked with us at every step of the process. If you want to check out Moto Road Raider, you can find it at the link on the screen. The Capstone program was a fun and educational experience, and we hope you enjoy what we put together. Thank you.